Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Host Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. CARICOM and AMIDST throw support behind Guyana amid border controversy. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Monday, 30th October 2023. Brought to you in association with our friends at Antillian Group. Details when we return.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Welcome back. In response to Venezuela's recent referendum to obtain its population's backing to claim Guyana's Essequibo region, the Caribbean Community CARICOM, an Organization of American States OAS, have firmly voiced their support for Guyana. Renata Burnett of HGP Nightly News provides a deeper insight into the unfolding situation.
We welcome the support of all the regional organizations. We believe that essentially the arbitral award of 1899 settled the matter, like most of the statements are saying, and that this movement towards a referendum is very disrespectful and not in keeping with law.
That was opposition leader Aubrey Norton speaking to the recent statement made by CARICOM on the ongoing border controversy between Guyana and Venezuela. He reiterated that his party welcomes the support by the regional body and will continue to condemn Venezuela's attempts. The Caribbean Community, CARICOM, in light of a popular referendum conducted by the Venezuelan National Assembly on defending its claim to the Essequibo region, issued a statement in support of Guyana's position to protect its sovereignty. In the statement released on Wednesday, CARICOM notes that two of the questions approved to be posed in the referendum, if answered in the affirmative, would authorize the government of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela to embark on the annexation of territory which constitutes part of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, and to create a state within Venezuela known as Guyana Essequibo. CARICOM reaffirms that international law strictly prohibits the government of one state for unilaterally seizing, annexing, or incorporating the territory of another state. An affirmative vote opens the door to the possible violation of this fundamental tenet of international law. The statement also added that CARICOM notes that the language of two questions approved to be posed in the referendum seeks an affirmation and implementation of Venezuela's stance on the issue by all means, according to or with the law. It is open to reasonable persons to conclude that by all means includes means of force or war. The regional body said it earnestly hopes that Venezuela is not raising the prospect of using force or military means to get its own way in this controversy over territory. Meanwhile, General Secretary of the Organization of American States, OAS, Luis Almagro, shared similar sentiments as CARICOM, stating, and I quote, "We condemn any act that constitutes a breach of peace and any attempt to encroach on a country's sovereign borders," unquote. CARICOM insists that the referendum proposed by Venezuela has no validity, bearing, or standing in international law in relation to this controversy. The referendum is a purely domestic construct, but its summary effect is likely to undermine peace, tranquility, security, and more in the region. Renata Burnett, reporting for the HGP Nightly News.
Latin America and the Caribbean grapple with elevated public debt despite targeted reduction efforts. In a press briefing held recently, the Deputy Division Chief of the IMF addressed the issue of persistently high public debt levels in Latin America and the Caribbean. Kimberly Henry of CVM Live crunches the numbers.
The International Monetary Fund, IMF, says despite ambitious fiscal consolidation plans in Latin America and the Caribbean, public debt remains high and is expected to remain elevated. Gross domestic product, GDP, measures the value of final goods and services a country produces. The IMF's Western Hemisphere Deputy Division Chief, Anna Ivanova, says that represents over 60% of GDP for countries in the region. This means Jamaica remains above the regional average at 75%. The debt to GDP ratio is generally a key indicator of government's financial stability. Ivanova says the cost of borrowing is also increasing globally.
In 2020, there was a large decline in GDP of 15% for this group, and of course, Jamaica is part of this group.
However, she notes GDP in the region recovered briskly post-pandemic.
We would call it a V-shaped recovery. Before the pandemic, during the pandemic, we were arguing what kind of recovery we're going to see. Is it going to be U-shaped, V-shaped, W, Nike swoosh? We didn't know how it's going to look.
Meanwhile, the IMF points out that headline inflation in commodities such as food and energy prices is trending down, returning to the central bank's targeted range, albeit at a slow pace.
Core inflation here is the median of various components, subcomponents of CPI. So we see that the distribution of prices is now trending down and the median is going down.
The labor market is also booming, something that is evident in Jamaica, where the unemployment rate fell to a new record low, 4.5% in April 2023, according to the Statistical Institute of Jamaica.
Employment and the labor market in general is quite strong. And on the left-hand chart, we are showing the employment for LA5. It almost recovered to the pre-pandemic trend. Labor force participation rate is still below what it was pre-pandemic, but half of it is explained by the demographic trends and the exit of older workers from the labor force.
IMF commends what it calls decisive monetary policy actions, which led to banks remaining healthy. But after a strong recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, output growth in the region is slowing, an impact IMF links to external weakening conditions. Kimberly Henry, CVM News.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick, in association with our friends at
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
You don't often see these political rivals agreeing on anything. But when it comes to whether the desecration of a Hindu religious site is a hate crime, they both say no. Urvashi Tawari Rupnarayan of TV6 News reports.
At variance for most of their political careers, it may be viewed as a rare occurrence to see the Prime Minister and the opposition leader agree.
I must say it's not very often that I agree with the opposition leader, but on this occasion, I can't take issue with much of what she said, because what she said is basically the facts. And I would want to discourage people who would want to use the instances of criminal activity against places of worship to portray that as the state of play in Trinidad and Tobago.
The Prime Minister was referring to the desecration of a Ramlila site in Taruba, which saw the effigy of Rawan burnt. In a statement on Wednesday, for which she was condemned by the Sanatan Dharma Mahasabha, opposition leader Kamala Persad-Bissessar said she disagreed with those who suggested it was a hate crime.
On this occasion, I think the opposition leader is quite correct in saying that we ought not to take that instance and say it is something against Hindus. And the proof is that other religions have had criminals who have gone to places of worship. You all may recall Father Harvey in St. Joseph. He was boarded by two criminals and he was almost physically harmed.
In her statement, Kamala Persad-Bissessar described it as yet another manifestation of crime.
The opposition leader was right when she said that there are either criminals looking for opportunity on a soft target, or people who are mentally disturbed or drug addicts. And I think that is what it is. So on this occasion, I don't have a problem with what the opposition leader has said, because that is what it is as far as I'm concerned. And to say that in our country, people are targeting other people because of their religion, I can't say that.
The Prime Minister described his own religious interactions, saying religious disharmony has not been his experience of life in TNT.
I run a political party and I have friends across the board, so I cannot subscribe to this thing about one group attacking another group because of their religion. What we have are criminals and petty criminals carrying out criminal conduct at places of worship, and that must stop. The police must make every effort to find out who is doing that and stop it, and it must not be used to label and stain our country.
Even after agreeing to hold government-opposition anti-crime talks, there still is a lot that remains to be agreed on, like the Attorney General being the convener.
I don't really have time to play games with the opposition, honest to God. Because if you're objecting to a chairman, who you want to chair? The opposition? And then, of course, a big issue about you want the public to be in on it. This is a matter for parliamentarians.
The Prime Minister says he hopes the talks will bear fruit, but there is, from his point of view, one main problem.
The issue, as far as I am concerned, as far as I'm aware, is that parliamentarians have not been able to agree on legislative approaches and legislative contributions to the crime fight. You would have seen us in the parliament on many occasions not being able to get opposition support. I mean, the opposition goes out of its way to not support government's position because they believe if crime is rampant in the country, it's good for their politics.
And no, he does not think it necessary that he be there, nor that talks be confined to him and the opposition leader.
This is not personal. The opposition leader I know loves to get personal with people. This is state business. We have legislative agreements, decisions to make. The government has a position. Parliament is where parliamentarians do the business of the people, representing the people. If you don't want to cooperate in the parliament, where's the cooperation going to be? And I don't have to be chummy with the opposition leader to get her to do something. I want her to do her job.
Citing Trinidad and Tobago's non-subscription to the Caribbean Court of Justice, the PM complains that the opposition has been in the habit of not supporting initiatives which serve the public good. Urvashi Tawari, Rupnarayan, TV6 News.
Caribbean countries have been called on to unite to address the common challenges they face. It comes from Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Terence Drew, at the opening of the Barbados Labour Party's 84th Annual Conference. CBC's Shakira Griffith has the details.
The conference is being held under the theme, BLP at age 85, Crafting Our Future Responsibly. Addressing a packed auditorium at the Darrell Jordan Secondary School, featured speaker and Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Terence Drew, suggested countries in the Caribbean must come together if they are to effectively tackle the problems they face.
We are one region facing the same challenges, and that is why our integration is so important. It is why our small states continue to dedicate time and effort into advocating so loudly and passionately for the meaningful reform of the broken international financial architecture that has not kept pace with the changes in the global economy and is not fit for purpose. And why we support our Sister Mayor's Bridgetown initiative that has the potential to effect the kind of changes that are essential to ensure equitable growth and sustainable development.
The party's highest award, the Grantley Adams Award, went to the President of the Senate, His Honor Reginald Farley. In his acceptance speech, he urged the policymakers of today to lay the foundation for those to come.
Even against the complaints and the pushback, because sometimes the people that we're leading are not able to see that place where we want to take them. Sometimes they complain that the new road is a little bumpy. It may be strange, and they will want to revert to the present comfort, even if it's not so comfortable, but it's familiar. And we need to have the intestinal fortitude as leaders to press on as Grantley Adams did, to give a better Barbados.
There was also a tribute to the late government minister, Don Williams, who died in August. Prime Minister Mia Amour Motley described him as a stalwart of the party.
I pray that his family will appreciate that we truly, truly value their sharing John with us over the course of almost 50 years of service to this great party. And indeed, our honors, and we may well reflect it both at the national level and in the party, are not conferred posthumously. But if they could have been, believe you me, John would be a recipient.
During the night's proceedings, party members from each constituency were recognized for their dedication. Awards of recognition were also presented in areas such as youth, the environment, sports, and culture. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean.
In the meantime, please follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily regional news and more, in association with our friends at Antillian Group.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's a service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.